Under the cover of an IL-76 transport aircraft, two Indian Su-30 fighter jets cross into Pakistani-controlled territory. Suddenly, one of the pilots notices a missile locked onto his plane. Despite his efforts to evade, the missile persists. In a twist, an enemy plane appears above, and the pilot accelerates, attempting to redirect the missile toward it. Successfully, the missile strikes the enemy plane, freeing him from pursuit. However, a Pakistani F-16 quickly catches up. The Indian pilot reacts swiftly, pulling the control stick to flip the Su-30 and launching a missile that misses the F-16. The Su-30 dives towards the ground with no other option, nearly hitting the lake surface as both jets engage in a low-altitude chase. The F-16 hits the Su-30's tail, damaging its fuel tank, and launches another missile. Facing imminent danger, the Indian pilot activates the emergency button, releasing flaps that collide with the incoming missile. The enemy remains close behind, leading to a tense maneuver where the Indian pilot narrowly avoids collision and counterattacks, leading both jets into a direct charge toward each other. This high-octane aerial war movie, Fighter, promises thrilling combat scenes and intense, action-packed sequences. Rewinding to a few months earlier, a group of Kashmiri terrorists inside Pakistan prepares to attack the Indian Srinagar Air Force Station base. The leader of the base militants, Jaish, enlists the expertise of Azza, a demolition specialist with a history of orchestrating multiple terror attacks, making him an ideal candidate for the mission. The Srinagar Air Force Station base is the heart of the Indian military, consisting of skilled fighter pilots among whom Paddy stands out. He is the ace of the Air Dragons Squadron, renowned for his exceptional skills in piloting the Su-30. On this day, the captain gathers the team for a briefing to inform them that armed activities in the control area are spiraling out of control. Therefore, they must intensify their training to prepare for any sudden situations. Today's simulation involves helicopters dropping a commando team into the Baltar area. After destroying the simulated target, the helicopters will pick up the team at the designated site. During this time, Paddy and Taj's fighters must provide air cover for the helicopters. The captain and the commander play the roles of the enemy in this exercise. As the commando team prepares to land, an enemy jet suddenly appears. Without hesitation, Paddy pursues the plane, not realizing this is the captain's strategy to lure him away. With Paddy gone, the commander approaches in his fighter jet. Taj immediately moves to protect the helicopters while Paddy continues his pursuit. Paddy closes in and locks a missile on the enemy, but the captain swiftly maneuvers into the clouds and then positions behind Paddy. Suddenly, the roles of hunter and hunted are reversed, with Paddy now targeted by the captain's missile. Paddy executes a sharp cobra maneuver, a spectacular aerial stunt that shakes off the missile lock. Despite Paddy's flawless technique, the mission is declared a failure as the enemy, played by the commander, manages to shoot two helicopters down. Back at the base, the captain erupts in anger. He scolds Taj for failing to control the team, then accuses Paddy of only focusing on performing stunts without grasping the essence of the simulated training task. Their objective was not to attack the enemy but to protect the choppers. If this weren't a simulation, all the helicopter pilots would have perished. Paddy is left speechless by the reprimand, haunting his fiancée, Naina, who was a helicopter pilot and died 2 years ago during a mission. They were supposed to head to Chamo the next day for combat search and rescue exercises. However, the captain receives intelligence from a special agent that terrorists led by Jaish are planning something big, with the top wanted criminal, Azza, assisting them. They just dispatched 2 squadrons of F-16s heading towards India's Srinagar Air Force Base. The commander of this squadron, Imran, is a highly skilled fighter pilot, so the captain considers cancelling the training in Chamo. However, the higher-ups state that many reinforcements from the Central Reserve Police Force have been sent, allowing them to proceed with the training as scheduled. The Air Dragons squadron immediately sets off, and along the way, they spot the reinforcements waving tricolored flags in greeting. But no one anticipated the sudden onset of tragedy. Azad instructs Kashmiri terrorists to approach the advancing convoy. The terrorists skillfully maneuver closer to the center of the convoy, resulting in almost total devastation of the reinforcement team. When the Air Dragon squadron returns, all they see are maimed and bloodied casualties. The terrorist attack sounded the alarm at the base, prompting the captain to order a red alert status and initiate aerial patrols within the control zone 1 hour later. The Western Air Command also convened a meeting in response to the attack, aiming to eliminate the armed group. Since the terrorists are located within Pakistani territory, the command decides to send the Air Dragon Squadron to attack Jabba Top near Balakot. It's Azar's explosive training center, where 300 terrorists are being trained. The mission is codenamed Operation Bandel. At 2 a.m. on February 25, 12 Mirage jets take off from the Gwalior Air Base, followed by 2 Su-30 jets from Bareilly 30 minutes later, responsible for perimeter cover. Inside the training base in Pakistan, Azza is receiving weapons when suddenly, the sound of aircraft engines fills the sky. With continuous bombardment by Mirage jets, the entire base becomes a blazing inferno. After 2 rounds of bombing, the target is thoroughly destroyed. The Mirage squadron prepares to retreat, while Taj and Patty will protect them until the borderline. However, remnants in the base pick up missiles to launch a surprise attack. Patty dives down with aerial maneuvers, successfully killing the terrorists on the ground. Meanwhile, Azza hides in the shadows and calls for reinforcements, prompting Imran, codenamed Red Nose, to scramble an F-16 fighter. By this time, the Mirage jets have crossed the border, leaving only Taj and Patty within Pakistani territory. Taj is quickly locked onto by Red Nose, prompting him to deploy flares to evade the enemy's locking. However, Red Nose has already locked onto the Su-30's tail. Upon seeing Taj in danger, Patty disregards the captain's command and swiftly returns to assist. He executes an aerial maneuver, positioning himself behind the F-16, swiftly locking onto Red Nose with a missile, but Taj has already been targeted. Patty hesitates to fire recklessly, warning Red Nose that he will retaliate if he dares to shoot down the leading Su-30. Red Nose releases the lock, reluctantly allowing both Su-30s to depart from Pakistan safely. Operation Bandar is a resounding success, but Pakistan cannot accept this defeat. Azza has buried countless brothers and decided to forego terrorist attacks. Instead, they plan to initiate a war and destroy several Indian artillery bases. Meanwhile, the Air Dragon's squadron is celebrating, but soon, the alarm at the airbase sounds as they detect 4 Pakistani F-16 jets crossing the border. Immediately, the Indian side scrambled the Su-30s to intercept. However, as more enemy aircraft are approaching, those 4 jets are distracting. The overall commander urgently ordered 12 Su-30 aircraft to take off from the Uthmapur base. Meanwhile, 16 Pakistani jets are nearing the ammunition depot and begin bombing before the Indian reinforcements arrive. Just then, the captain leads the Air Dragon squadron to the scene, and the Pakistani pilots drop bombs upon seeing them. After destroying the ammunition depot, the Pakistani jets quickly retreated, leaving only 2 F-16s heading toward Batalik. The Indian overall commander also sends Patty and Taj's jets to intercept the enemy jets at Batalik. Simultaneously, the Batalik base is ready for combat, opening fire as soon as the Pakistani jets come into view. However, by the time Patty and Taj arrive, the base has already been devastated by Red Nose. Patty and Taj chase after Red Nose, but the overall commander warns them that they are approaching the borderline and orders them to retreat immediately. Taj urges Patty to return to base, but they are still both engaged in separate pursuits of the Pakistani F-16s. Patty fires missiles in the engagement, but Red Nose narrowly evades them by skirting along the mountainside. He leads Patty beyond the control line. Due to Pakistani interference with the Indian command's radio, the Indian commander can only watch as they fall into the ambush. Several F-16s quickly surround Taj, leaving Patty panicked. With Taj's position about 30 kilometers away, Patty hastily turns back to assist him, determined not to let another tragedy like 9's happen again. However, the F-16s have already begun attacking Taj, hitting his aircraft. The enemy immediately fires at his tail without allowing Taj to catch his breath. After being shot, Taj's plane rapidly descends, and both pilots parachute into Pakistani territory. Patty requests rescue helicopters from the base, but the captain, unwilling to risk further casualties, orders Patty to return immediately. This ambush not only results in the loss of soldiers at the Batalik base but also leads to the disappearance of 2 outstanding pilots. The captain harshly disciplines Patty for crossing the borderline without authorization. Pending the military court's decision, Patty and his co-pilot are grounded. He once again dreams of 9's tragic death and struggles with facing Taj's family. After reviewing cockpit recordings and surveillance unit records, the military court expels Patty from the Air Dragon Squadron. It sends him to the Hyderabad Air Force Academy as a flight instructor. A female pilot privately approaches the captain, seeking leniency for Patty, but the captain reveals that he has already given Patty a chance. 3 years ago, during an evacuation mission where the assault team needed extraction, Nina piloted a helicopter to assist while Patty provided cover in a fighter jet. Due to intense gunfire and fog obscuring the enemy's position, Nina's helicopter couldn't reach the extraction point. Patty instructed her to fly lower to identify the target, successfully revealing the enemy's artillery positions. Nina immediately shifted the helicopter to allow Patty to fire a missile, but the enemy's gunfire struck first, causing the chopper to crash, resulting in Nina's death. The captain wouldn't have lost his beloved sister if Patty hadn't been so overconfident and allowed Nina to take such risks. Patty accepts his fate and heads to the Hyderabad Air Force Academy. He doesn't underestimate the role of a flight instructor and quickly earns the students' trust. 40 days later, India and Pakistan reached an agreement to exchange prisoners of war, but Azza refused to compromise easily. He severely beats Taj and Bash, and when the Indian Air Force goes to retrieve them, they only bring back Bash's body. Although the Pakistani side claims Bash's death was due to a parachute failure, everyone knows he suffered brutal torture. The Air Force base holds a grand funeral for him, while Taj remains captive with Azza, prompting efforts to rescue him. At this time, Taj discovers a secret: the informant who previously provided intelligence to the base is working for Azza. He informs the Pakistani authorities that the Indian army will attack tomorrow, urging Azza to be vigilant. Meanwhile, the captain devises a plan to rescue Taj. They soon receive news that Pakistan has closed its airspace, making it nearly impossible for any aircraft to enter. Meanwhile, Pakistan deploys 2 squadrons of fighter jets and 4 surface-to-air missile sites along the border, making entry into Pakistan almost impossible. After much deliberation, the captain develops a plan: the assault team will conduct a high-altitude halo jump from 30,000 feet and rescue Taj within 20 minutes, then destroy the enemy's headquarters. To evade Pakistani radar, the Indian side first sends out an Il-76 transport plane disguised as a Russian cargo aircraft, mistakenly entering Pakistani territory and swiftly dropping the commandos. Upon detection by the Pakistani tower, they demand the transport plane to turn back, claiming that Pakistani airspace is shut down. However, they soon realized there were 3 aircraft, including 2 Su-30 fighter jets, hiding behind the transport plane. 2 Su-30 fighter jets take immediate action, quickly bombing the Kotli and Rawalakot airports. The commando team successfully lands outside the terrorist organization's headquarters. Upon hearing the commotion, Azar's men come out to search, but the assault team swiftly infiltrates the camp. Azza receives intel that the Indian army will only act at night. At the Indian Air Force headquarters, a spy removes his disguise, revealing himself as a double agent who fed Azza false information. Seeing this, Azza has no choice but to take up arms in resistance. The Indian assault team swiftly places bombs on surrounding walls while soldiers engage in combat, tossing grenades into windows. They breach the windows to find Taj and evacuate with him. Soon after, the timed bombs explode behind them. A female pilot arrives as planned in a helicopter to pick up Taj and fly him away from the camp. A second helicopter arrives, but Azza, who survived the explosion, shoots it down. Meanwhile, the Su-30 fighter jets providing cover are hit in the tail. The captain orders the female pilot to return and assist the injured from the second helicopter while the assault team battles Azar's remnants. As the female pilot enters the airspace above the camp, she faces fierce enemy attacks, prompting Sandy to pilot a Su-30 to provide cover. With the situation escalating, the captain is forced to deploy reserve Su-30 jets. It is reported that someone is on standby in the Su-30 reserve team. It turns out to be Patty, who had been ready and waiting. Given the circumstances, the captain allows him to join the rescue mission, acknowledging Patty's exceptional piloting skills. Even if it means facing a military court, they prioritize rescuing Taj and the others. The captain sits in the co-pilot seat beside Patty as they head towards Pakistani airspace. On the other side, Sandy is overwhelmed and unable to shake off the enemy jets. In this crisis, a Pakistani pilot suddenly finds himself inexplicably locked onto by a missile, boosting everyone's morale with Patty's arrival. However, the ground situation is grim, with Azza acting as a lethal weapon. The Indian commander swiftly dispatches reinforcements. Paddy and Sandy are about to provide support, but they come under attack from enemy missile fire, resulting in the unfortunate loss of a teammate. Seeing this, Paddy immediately engages the enemy, but the enemy pilot's skills match his own, evading Paddy's attacks. In a tense moment, the persistent enemy pilot locks Paddy between two enemy jets and launches a missile. Paddy quickly changes direction, but the rocket follows, forcing Paddy to fly low over the lake, attempting to shake off the pursuing missile. However, the rocket continues to pursue relentlessly. Paddy charges toward the enemy jet above, leading to an intense aerial battle reminiscent of the opening scene. At a critical moment, Paddy collides with the persistent enemy pilot, enabling him and the captain to eject from their seats, successfully escaping the predicament. Meanwhile, the assault team continues to engage Azza fiercely. The battle has been raging for hours. Azza gets hold of the leader of the ground team and starts beating him mercilessly. Just then, Paddy parachutes in, instantly turning the tide of the battle. Paddy, recalling his fallen comrades, unleashes all his strength against Azza. They fight from the campsite to the outdoors, with Azza proving as resilient as a cockroach. At that moment, Taj arrives just in time to provide air support. Seeing the situation turning against him, Azza jumps into a car to escape, and Paddy leaps onto the vehicle. He grabs Azza by the neck, and as they approach the enemy camp, the female pilot orders a missile strike, turning the camp into a raging inferno. Azza is forced to change direction, and in the struggle, he manages to throw Paddy off and smash the windshield with a punch. They continue their brawl on the speeding truck. With Taj's aerial advantage, they neutralize Azar's accomplices. Paddy realizes Azza and steers jam the throttle towards a metal frame on one side. Catching the eye of the female pilot, Paddy leaps and grabs onto the helicopter's landing gear, successfully ending the rescue mission with victory. Paddy fulfills his promise to rescue his comrade and returns to his original post. The film's special effects may not rival Hollywood's intricacies but are imaginative. While the movie does have a forced central theme, overall, the flow and completeness of the film are good, making it worth watching.